Hey, hello, it's Al at Happy Dog Farm, and I have an FDA inspection tomorrow. It's my first ever FDA inspection. Usually it's the Department of Agriculture. So I know one thing I'm going to get gigged on is that I don't have a documented HACCP plan. Um, I know. However, I think HACCP and I practice HACCP, I just don't write it down. So I'm going to try and help you if you're in the position where you're an inspected facility and you're a registered Food and Drug Administration facility, um, and you use one of these. There's a lot going on here from a HACCP perspective, and I want to share with you what I know so that you know how to properly clean this thing because it's not as straightforward as you would think. So, first of all, what is this? This is a fruit grinder. Specifically, it's a Zambelli MuliMix as opposed to a MuliMax. And really, it's got the same motor, most of the same guts, but they charge you more for the other one. Go figure. Um, I call this the tuba. Pretty much everyone who has one knows what I mean. The tuba, but the funnel comes down through the collar and drops into a chopping section where the pumice is discharged down here. It tends to make a mess all over the place. My ceiling is covered with dried on pumice that will not come off until next summer. But its construction, it's by design and by fabrication, has a lot of trap points in it that if you're not diligent and clean them out, you're going to start to smell vinegar and you'll get contamination in your cider. So you really want to pay close attention to how you clean this. Really, one of the first things I've got to recommend is that you clean it as soon as you're done using it. Don't let it get dry because once that stuff dries on here, it's like Portland cement. It really is hard to get off. So that's like super huge. Now, to start the cleaning, you have two bolts. I left mine finger tight for you, but you would properly torque them down. They're 13 millimeter, but a 1/2 inch spanner will do. And they're different. One of these bolts, they're, they're, they're so long, but one of them has machined a little pin extension. And that is part of the electrical interlock. If you put them in the wrong positions, it won't turn on. If they vibrate loose, it will turn off. You've got to make sure that this bolt goes back in the right hole and stays in there securely. And if you're worried about losing it, like it falls down into a drain, you better get another soon, otherwise you'll be out of luck. So the tuba lifts off. It's got a little hinge in the back. And we'll start by talking down here. Oh, word of warning. The edges on this are barely finished. There are a lot of sharp edges left after manufacturing on this thing. And I took off the tip of the finger the other day, sliding my hand inside. I still actually don't know where I took off the tip of my finger, although I bled a lot. My hands were soft from being immersed in water and cleaning and doing stuff. So I would just say to you, when you're actually cleaning this and whatnot, you want to wear thick rubber gloves or something to protect your hands. Very important. So back to cleaning this. First of all, this is the working section where the blades are, and you've got this grate that will only allow chunks to pass through if they're of a size. So the first thing you do is you pull out the grate. Now, you don't put your hands in there to get the blades out. That's not a good idea. This is also, the top bolt is a 13 millimeter bolt, 1/2 inch. So you only need one wrench to do this, but that really begs for a socket more than for a simple spanner. So there's that. When you're tightening and loosening it, you can't physically hold the blades because if they're sharpened enough, they will go through your glove. I use this as a blank for a child's bat. It's a thing around here. And I will put the block of wood between these, and I will use that to hold the blades in place while I loosen or tighten the securing bolt. Now, what's really important about this is either use a piece of plastic or use a piece of wood, but don't use a piece of metal or anything hard, or you'll damage your blades. Okay, I don't have much wood in here because I don't like porous stuff, but this bat is here for that purpose. So you're going to take off, you're going to loosen the bolt, you're going to take 1, 2, 3, these 3 pieces off, and I recommend you give them their own container, something to put them in, and you let them soak in warm soapy water. They will be totally fouled up with pumice that has been just impacted onto the surface. You want to soften it up a little bit, okay? Finally, I use acid brushes. This is, well, Sil brush, whatever. You're going to run warm water in here. You want to use this, get in the corners, go all around, and you want to get those pieces of apple out of there. Now, the trap point in here are these grooves that you saw me pull the grate out of. You will trap in that thin gap, which is about 1/8 of an inch, a hunk of a centimeter. I'd say it's 2 millimeters, maybe 3. That gap in there tends to trap material. Get the material out of there. Scrub it out with the brush. Okay. While you're working on this and you've got this cleaned out, now start looking at the outside of it. And one insidious trap point here is where the micro switch fits on the side for the safety interlock. You get a lot of garbage packed up in here. Water, get it out of there. Okay, on the motor fairings, it's amazing how this stuff flies around, but you're going to want to wash the motor off. Now, this motor is a wet duty motor. Obviously, it's unplugged, right? Yeah. But you're going to, again, wash it off, use a brush, get that cleaned out of there. If you have excessive staining in here, stains are just that. They're stains, but they are an artifact of organic material. You want to get it out of there eventually. Soap and water. Barkeeper's Friend really does a good job of cleaning up the stainless steel. Again, a brush or an abrasive Scotch pad, because remember, the blades aren't in here anymore, so you can get down and get dirty in there. At the end of the season, you might use part of your solution of sodium percarbonate and let it in there, but soak it. Unfortunately, you can't submerge this whole thing, so you're going to go so far with that. I would say probably Barkeeper's Friend is your friend, but you're going to scrub this and then thoroughly rinse it. Now, with the blades, wearing strong gloves, holding them carefully because they should be very, very sharp, it will be very apparent to you where they need to have a brush scrubbing the organic, the detritus off of them to get them clean. The notch where all this fits together, as this goes down onto the spindle, all needs to be scrubbed. And you'll find plenty, and you'll feel satisfied with yourself. Don't forget to get the ends. That's like cleaning behind your ears. These end points here tend to accumulate stuff. Now, one thing I want to call out, hey, Zambelli, are you watching this? Your welds are lousy. Just done. If you take a look at the paddle arm that's actually throwing the impeller, that's throwing the apple stuff around, the welds are lousy. A lot of porosity, big pockets in there. You got to scrub them out. And that's why a good soak helps to soften up that material. I don't know. I might ask my machinist if he can reflow them with his TIG welder, but my welds are terrible. They're lousy. And there's a lot of trap points in the welds, and you got to scrub them out. Might actually be worthwhile to use a wire brush on them and then come back and use a scrub brush and soap and water and whatnot. But don't be fooled. That's a problem area. And this impeller, because of its function, also packs in a lot of apple debris. But when you're done, there's no reason why this whole section should not be clear of debris, dry it out, reassemble it. And something I've discovered lately, in addition to blades being dull, another problem we might have is that fruit just doesn't feed in very well. I found for me that putting the top blade directly above the lower blade, it feeds fruit a little bit better. Okay, if you have the blades at a right angle, which might seem logical, not so much. It just doesn't work very well. So I would recommend you trying it, see what works for you, but having the blades one over the other tends to feed better. For different sizes of fruit, you just choose them up. But more important than anything, make sure your blades are sharp. That's huge. But don't put bare flesh in there. I've been cut more than once, and now for me, it's gloves and blocks of wood and stuff like that. And you reassemble it. This scrubs up really nicely with a coarse Scotch pad and a little barkeeper's friend, and then you rinse it with soap and water, and it's good. But we're not done yet. There's so much more. This was the easy part. You can just stand over it and put it all together, and you're done with it. The tuba is the hard part. Now, obviously, you're going to look at it, and you're going to wash the outside and get all the stuff off of it. And you're going to clean inside of the funnel. Oh, that was easy, you think. And you're going to flip it up. And then you're going to start saying, oh, my Lord, look at all the stuff that's in there. And you're going to get it out. But now I want to tell you about the trap points. The obvious trap points and the much less obvious trap points. One, remember, lots of sharp edges on here. You're not even near the blades anymore. But this thing wants to hurt you. You have a rolled seam here, which inside of that gap, again, about 2 millimeters, it tends to trap a lot of stuff. A toothbrush works nicely. The tip of a pocket knife works nicely, but you have to get it out of there. You can use this brush if you want to. You had it anyway. But you've got to get it out of there. What you might not notice is when it was folded and it went around, lousy welds, they only tack welded it. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 tack welds, but you have an open edge here. That open edge traps junk. Get it out of there. Certainly, it's important. Get it out of there. And also, when you're running your hand around there, be careful. It's not dull by any means. Now, let's get up here. Where the funnel section joins to the neck, again, you have tack welds, but you have this open edge here. 1, it's sharp. But 2, you'll notice that when you're washing out here, if you're paying attention and you blast water down here, you'll see it coming down inside. There's a collar in there. And if you look from the bottom into the throat, you'll see this whole section where the funnel inserts into the tube, and there's a huge trap section in there you've got to clear out. A brush like this helps. You want high pressure hot water. You might buy an accessory for your hose to get in there and clean it out, make it feel like a dentist. Floss. And while you're doing it, if you're shooting water in this direction, you'll see stuff coming out this gap, validating again that this gap is a trap point. You got to clean it out. You can shoot water from here, and a lot of it will come back, but a lot of water will go in there, loosening up those debris points. That is by far the most difficult to get out, especially if you've let this dry overnight. Again, I really can't emphasize enough, don't let it dry out overnight. And the thing is, the bell, the tuba, is big enough that even if you were to lay this down on its side in like a feed tub, it's not going to be deep enough to submerge the whole thing to keep it soft overnight. Now, if you've got something you can submerge it in and just put sanitizer in there like Starfan or something, you're golden. But I don't have that. I've got a very big sink, but this does not fit well in it. I soaked the bottom end in the sink overnight, but when I came back, this was dry and this was very difficult to clean out. So again, trap point here, trap point up inside, trap point around in here. They all need to come clean. Watch yourself going around in here. They're not really trap points, but they're traps because you've got sharp edges on this metal. I think in the manufacturing process, they would have charged you a lot more to have done better. Anyway, the thing that bothers me the most, though, is that these welds here are very poorly done. They are not good welds, and they should not have passed inspection for a food processing piece of equipment. That one's on you, Zambelli. So to you, the viewer, pay attention to them, clean them, and if you know somebody who thinks they can rework them, please do it to get rid of that porosity, because those are just trap points for stuff you don't want to clean out. When this is all said and done, you've got this big sticky mess. I use Star San a lot for sanitizing these items. I just spray it, let it dry. Switching to PAA, peracetic acid, something like that. Anyway, but I'm still not sure how to work with it, so I'm being very careful before I switch. Blades. The blades are 304 stainless. This is a 400 stainless. The difference being, really, this is magnetic. You can get a magnet to stick to it. That doesn't mean it's not stainless. It's just a different type of stainless. But these are 304, so much less corrosion issues. But when you're done, rinse it, get it nice and dry, spray it. Before you assemble it, spray it with Star San in and out. Then pop it up, interlock. I can hear it click when the interlock went in. Half-inch, 13 millimeter. Tighten it up. And one other thing I kind of recommend, because life is funny that way, you're cleaning, you're doing other stuff. You don't want stuff getting in here when you've just cleaned it. Take a clean, well-rinsed apron, just pop it over the top. A beach ball looks really nice in there. You put a beach ball in there, but stuff can get around the edges and you have to deal with it. But I really recommend you cover the top of it to keep stuff from going down in it. Now, I will, as we're going along, have inserted some pictures and the like to give you close-up details of this. It's a nice grinder. If the blades are sharp, it works very well. It's a messy grinder. It tends to shoot a lot of stuff all over the place. And I haven't really worked out a solution for that. But as you drop the apples down in there, a fair amount comes flying up. My helper wears safety glasses. I wear a face shield because I wear glasses. I strongly recommend you protect yourself. And my ceiling's a mess and it's dried on. So I'm going to have to get that taken care of. And if I have a mess in here, if I find pumice on the walls and things like that, it's because of the grinder. So the grinder is its own hazard point as far as trashing out the rest of my otherwise practically surgical sterile cider room, because it throws things like a spoiled baby. So that's the Zambelli MuliMix. Also works for MuliMax. It has a lot of trap points in it when you clean it. It is stainless steel. You can use caustics on it if you want to start off with a percarbonate, you can, and then neutralize it with citric acid, rinse it, and then use your Star San on it. However you want to do it, but look out for those trap points around the necks and collars. Be careful of your hands because this thing is sharp. So you can get hurt far, far away from the blades. That's all I have to say about the Zambelli. I wish you well. You've got quite the investment here. Take good care of it. It will take good care of you. And when a food inspector comes by, either whoever inspects you, if you get inspected, be able to speak with confidence, especially if you're using it and obviously it's filled with stuff. you can speak to how you clean it. You know what to tell the nice people because they just want to keep people safe and healthy. So that's it. Thank you.